Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. We're going to look at a universal human dilemma, our absolutely infinite desires clashing with our very, very finite wallets. I mean, we've all been there, right? Staring at our bank accounts, trying to figure out how to stretch our resources just to cover our basic needs. But here's the thing, this isn't just a personal headache for you and me. It is literally the foundational problem of how the entire world operates.
So it begs the question, why can't we just have everything we want? Think about any society out there, from a tiny, remote village to a massive global superpower. People need food, clothing, shelter, roads, doctors. Honestly, the list never ends. But no society, anywhere, starts off with everything it needs. We are all bound by some pretty strict physical limits.
And that brings us to the overarching theme of today's explainer, the fundamentals of economics, choices, scarcity, and society. We're going to unpack the very first chapter of how economies actually function. And don't worry, we're not looking at this as a bunch of dry, abstract math equations. Instead, we're looking at it as a fascinating story. A story about human choices, scarcity, and how we organize our whole society just to survive and thrive.
So here's our roadmap for the chapter today. We'll start with the problem of scarcity, then move to the three central economic problems. After that, we'll hit production possibilities and costs, look at organizing the economy, and finally wrap up with the lenses of economic analysis.
All right, let's jump straight into part one, the problem of scarcity, the universal human dilemma.
It really all boils down to scarcity. Basically, it's this simple, completely unavoidable condition. Individuals and societies just do not have unlimited resources to fulfill all their needs and wants. Because resources are finite, they run out, every individual, and really every society, is forced to make a choice between different goods and services. Think about it. If a family wants a bigger house, well, they might have to sacrifice some daily luxuries, like eating out. You can only get more of one thing by giving up something else. And this plays out perfectly when we look at how everyday people actually operate in a simple economy. Take a family farm. They have land, grains, some farming implements, maybe bullocks, and their own labor. A weaver, they've got yarn, cotton, and weaving instruments. A teacher has the specific skills required to impart education, and a laborer has their own physical labor services. What's cool here is that each person takes their specific, limited resources, produces something of value, and then exchanges it. It's basically a giant ecosystem of survival based on trade. The farm trades corn for clothes, the teacher trades skills for money to buy food. Everybody uses exactly what they have to get what they need. Moving on to Section 2, three central economic problems, how societies allocate. Now, because of this universal scarcity we just talked about, every single economy on Earth is collectively trying to answer three fundamental sequential questions. First up, what to produce, meaning which goods and services do we make and in what quantities? Do we put our resources into agriculture or maybe the military? Step 2, how to produce. Which resources and technologies do we actually use? Are we relying on human labor or are we bringing in heavy machinery? And then step 3, for whom to produce. How is the produce distributed among individuals? Once the pie is baked, who actually gets the biggest slice? Is it based on need or strictly on who can afford it? The way a society answers these exact three questions, that literally defines the entire society. Which brings us to Section 3, production possibilities and costs, the reality of trade-offs.
Okay, imagine a society that can only produce two things, corn for food and cotton for clothes. If you look at the possibilities here, if they put absolutely all their energy into cotton, that's possibility A. They get 10 units, but 0 corn. No food at all. Now, if they suddenly decide, hey, we really need just 1 unit of corn, they have to drop their cotton production down to 9. That's possibility B. Mathematically, getting more of one good always means sacrificing another. If they decide they want 3 units of corn at possibility D, cotton plummets down to 4 units. There are hard mathematical limits based on their resources and technology. It's a real balancing act.
And this harsh reality leads us directly to one of the absolutely most vital concepts in this whole chapter, opportunity cost, also known as economic cost. By definition, it is the cost of having a little more of one good in terms of the amount of the other good that has to be forgone. The really fascinating thing here is that opportunity cost applies just as much to your personal weekend plans as it does to a whole nation trying to allocate its resources. Whenever a choice is made, something else is always inevitably left behind.
All right, Section 4, organizing the economy. Who decides?
So who actually makes these big decisions? Well, there are fundamentally two overarching systems to solve these problems. On one hand, you have a centrally planned economy. This is where the government or some central authority plans all important activities. They're aiming for an allocation that they deem desirable for society as a whole. Think of mid-20th century China, for example. On the other hand, we have a market economy. In this system, all economic activities are organized through the free interaction of individuals. And just to be clear, market here doesn't mean a physical grocery store. It just means an arrangement where buyers and sellers freely interact, using price signals to naturally coordinate demand and supply. Basically, if people really want a good, its price goes up, and producers make more of it.
But time for a quick reality check. Pure centrally planned or pure free market economies almost never exist in total isolation today. The truth is, all modern economies are actually mixed economies. They feature varying extents of both government planning and free market roles. For instance, the United States leans heavily on the market side of things, while India has utilized a lot of significant government planning since its independence. It's really just a sliding scale based on how much the government steps in.
Finally, let's look at Section 5, Lenses of Economic Analysis, How Economists Study Systems.
When economists actually sit down to study a system, they swap between two very different lenses. First, there's positive economics. This is all about the cold hard facts, studying how different economic mechanisms actually function and the outcomes they produce. It asks questions like, if cotton prices rise, what exactly happens to the quantity of corn? Normative economics, on the other hand, is a bit more philosophical. It evaluates whether those economic mechanisms and their resulting outcomes are actually desirable. So positive economics asks how things work. Normative economics asks if they should work that way. To really grasp an economy, you absolutely need both.
We also divide the study of economics by scale. Microeconomics is your zoomed-in, microscopic view. It studies individual economic agents and single commodity markets to see exactly how specific prices and quantities are determined. Macroeconomics, that is your zoomed-out telescope view. It steps back to study the economy as a whole, focusing on massive aggregate measures like total national output, total employment, and overall price levels.
Wow, we have unpacked a lot from this foundational chapter in today's explainer, from the basic, everyday dilemma of scarcity all the way up to massive macroeconomic forces. So I want to leave you with this. Look out the window at your own society. Think about the goods you buy, the job you have, and the prices you pay every day. Is your daily life driven by the free market, planned by an authority, or is it a delicate, invisible mix of both? Once you start viewing the world through this lens of scarcity and opportunity cost, I promise you, you're never going to look at a simple price tag the exact same way again.